Okay. Good day to you. It's me again, Shane Lee. Now, the people who are arguing with me on YouTube brought up pornos, right? And marriage, right? Now, in day 2, Adam and Eve are married by the end of chapter 2 and are naked and not ashamed, right? They still become one flesh. Now, we don't know what all they did in Eden either. We don't know if sometimes the man was on top, if sometimes the woman was on top, or if they even imitated the animals and did it like the animals. Now, the animals have to kind of do it on all fours. For us to do it on our fours, you got to get on your hands and knees. It's a little different, right? Now, if Satan, though, is hiding something from Adam, like his Venus, right? But showed it to Eve again, right? Trying to explain something to you. That's not in the story verbatim, word for word, right? But if you read the whole Bible that talks about everything, including the fall, it brings more details out as it goes along. But if you just take the story at face value, it's going to confuse you, right? You might, like people today, think they just bit into a fruit called the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and that's all they had to do to, again, know good and evil, right? Is bite the fruit. Well, there's more detail if you read what Moses says about certain things about the fruit. What kind of fruit is Moses talking about? Could it be that the tree was not a literal fruit tree, but a human being? Also, the representation of Satan in the flesh itself. Right. Yeah, that's where you're not wanting to connect the dots with. Because, see, in Judges, one of the men is dealing with a problem of the other people wanting to make a king. It's in Judges chapter 9. Over them. And this is during the period of the Judges, so that was kind of frowned upon during this time, right? But in the metaphor, he said the trees, okay, meaning the men, went out to make a king over them. And the first tree they went to was the olive tree. But also, King David and the 2 witnesses are described as olive trees. But there's also 2 candlesticks. Are you forgetting that, men of God? Who are the candlesticks to God? The women. The women. So if there's 2 olive trees and 2 candlesticks, that means what? 2 men and 2 women. Yes. Why is it at least 4? How many went into the ark? 8. John's hoping, okay, with all they're dealing with, at least 4 people might be saved by their not writing everything Jesus said down. That's what he means when he says all that at the end of his book. They didn't write down everything Jesus said, but these are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Right. Well, part of that don't you understand? They didn't tell us everything Jesus told them, basically, is what it's saying. No. But that's because they don't think you could have handled it at the time. And maybe they're right or wrong, but whatever happened is a result of that, including Constantine trying to do away with the Gnostic Gospels because the Orthodox presented them in a negative light. But the problem is the Orthodox, though confused the doctrine as well, focusing on the Trinity of males, right? or the triad or the triple males of God, right? Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, right? But the thing is, you also have Mother, Daughter, and Holy Ghost on the other end of the spectrum as well. Because like Paul said, neither is the woman without the man, nor the man without the woman in the Lord. And first you need a mother and a father. Then you can have a son and a daughter when they conceive. But the next generation is also in the son and daughter newly born, right? So there's still a trinity there. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, right? But also Mother, Daughter, and Holy Ghost, right? Because you can't have one without the other. You're not independent of each other, in other words. You need the male and the female to have a child, right? That's why most Christians frown on gay unions. Even though, okay, like we said, right, the sin isn't the sex alone, right? Two. Sometimes it's commitment, too, right? Sometimes it's, overpopulation that could be a problem, and it's okay for people to be gay now. I don't know what to tell you. But there again, you can't take homosexuality too far either. Right. And again, you can't blow people up with nuclear warheads and neutron bombs to make room for everybody else either. Then you're going to fuck it up for everybody. That's what I'm trying to warn you about too with the population explosion. In the last 200, mainly 100 years, right? It's like the book by O. Henry, I think, where everybody finds a cure for getting older. In the book, right, they start finding these solutions to looking older, right? And find a way medically or scientifically to turn back the clock and look younger and stay younger for longer, right? I know. And as they're doing this, right, even Grandpa gets into it, right? He no longer wants to get older, right? Or look older, right? I know. So he too wants to recapture his youthful appearance, right? And goes about to do that as well. But the problem with that, right, is again, no one gets older anymore. You start living longer, and you can reproduce more. If you do all that, right. Well, the planet is still only so big, I know. And if you're not doing it in the right spirit, and Satan is the one getting you to do it, he can punish you because you're doing it in your vanity. Well, you might say, well, Shane, you look okay for 50. What's your problem? Well, I don't dye my hair. Does that bother you? Right. It's getting longer. Does that bother you? I mean, why is that an issue between me and you? See, what I'm trying to do is tell you the whole truth. From God, not vainly. What you've been doing to me is lying to me, every one of you in the church up to now. See, if you're lying about something and you're not seeking the whole matter, right, which is the duty of kings and queens, by the way, all right, to seek out the whole matter, right, to search it, in other words, right, you're not doing that anymore. In fact, when I was growing up, I never once read Ezekiel 31 that talks about the trees envying a particular tree in Eden, right? The Garden of God. And all the animals were watered by this particular, were covered or by its leaves. Right? Until iniquity was found in it. Mm-hmm. It was our guardian angel at first, right? But then went about to teach us pornography, the knowledge of good and evil. Yet again, the sex, even in pornography, is only sin if you what? Condemn it as sin. Right. Two. It is two consenting adults who just show you, how, again, to have sex for the camera if you want to show it from that angle. Right. So yet, is it a sin you can't forgive, though? That's what Satan wants you to think, too. See, once you start thinking like that, you become like Satan, and you start playing God, which is the real sin, right? Now, if a couple wants to have sex on camera and want to show the sex act more visually, that's how you got to do it. Right. But is it a crime? No. Now, is it a sin? No, you're still just having sex. You're just more visual with it. Right. So, what is the sin? That you, as a mortal, want to tell two consenting adults that they can't do that. Playing God to them. When they can do it. Right. Do you understand what makes it a sin? You. Your knowledge, okay, in how you have sex makes what they're doing a sin. You know that's wrong. Right. You know they can't do that. Right. Now, I ain't saying there ain't laws you're supposed to follow, period. You don't what? Rape somebody. You don't what? Assault somebody. You don't what? Steal somebody. You don't what? Murder somebody. And you're to try to tell people the whole truth and not lie to them, right? Though, would you cry if they told another lie, or would you say goodbye? Would you let it ride? That's a song too, right? Lyric. See, the thing is, if someone's lying to you, there's two reasons. They either done something wrong they don't know how to repent of, right? Or again, right? They don't want you to know something they know, right? But when you won't seek it for yourself and you say they're lying to you, yet you don't do nothing to figure out what they're lying about on your own, if you condemn them for lying, you're doing the same thing by not seeking out the whole truth for yourself. Right. Then you're both lying about it. That's the irony too. Right. But if someone does seek out the whole truth and does figure it out, like the seven seals, the first one is the divine name of the Jews, right? The second one is the three forms of God, right? Androgynous, male, and female. The third one is the day could be anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 years to God, right? The fourth one is if you quit playing God, God can heal you and forgive you. If you forgive others their trespasses against you. But if you condemn others, you condemn yourself. And therefore, you heal however you heal, right? By your faith either in the doctors or whatever, right? You have faith in to recover from your injuries. The fifth one is what day we're on and how many days we got left. And you got to figure where we're at, practically where we're at, partially as much as you can, right? Though you still don't know the exact time it'll all be replenished and things like that. But I figure the 10 days of tribulation started when we sinned in Eden with Satan, right? Well, that's possibly 10,000 years, right? And the millennial reign of Christ is also 1,000 to 10,000 years, right? Right? When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun, right? But the problem is, okay, when Jesus comes to die for us, he mentions Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as being resurrected. But wait a minute. Moses talks of the earth having to be replenished. The Hindus talk of a time when men could fly around and blow each other to hell. And nuclear warheads and stuff like that. Right. And they believe in reincarnation. Right. Well, another way to do reincarnation is you keep having to replenish the planet with the same species every time man destroys it. Do you hear me? Well, if you have to do that, and you start with the same pattern of Adam and Eve in Eden, right? They're going to have the same children in day 6 every time you recreate them. Until they sin with Satan in day 7, right? And then they're going to fall again. And then for 10,000 years, you're in the tribulation of Satan. But that means every day could be as 10,000 years. So that means every 70,000 years, there's the day of the Lord, the 6th day, and the 7th day is Satan's day, right? Because he did evil on the Sabbath day, right? Of the Lord, which could be up to 1,000 to 10,000 years, right? Well, man is not ready to handle the knowledge, right? And can't deal with what's going on, right? So when he plays dumb and like he don't know when he's going to die, right? He could die tomorrow. Get hit by a bus, get shot by an enemy, get shot by a friend, whatever, right? You're also developing weapons of mass destruction, which John talks of a weapon that departs as a scroll as if rolled end to end, right? Which is kind of like a mushroom. See, when you roll a scroll together and it unfolds like this, what does that look like? A nuclear warhead explosion? Right. See, what he's talking about is you roll the paper together like this. And then it unfurls, right? Well, the only thing I've seen that looks like that to me is the mushroom cloud when they're testing the nuclear weapons they develop through the Hindu scriptures, which is what? Reincarnating it. Replenishing it. The idea of man flying around the earth, right? And creating even cities in the heavens, right? You might try to do that like George Jetson, Jane, his wife. See, even Leonardo da Vinci, Nostradamus, and certain men of old knew these days would be longer than we think they are, too. Some of the prophecies of Nostradamus go 2,000 to 3,000 more years, right? Do you know that? From now. Well, guess what day we're in? The 6th day. But guess what? It's really the 5th day, right? After the fall. Mm-hmm. Now, if a week is 7 days, yet we have 10 days, that's a week and a half, right? More. Mm-hmm. So the 2 witnesses are dead for 3.5 years, or 3.5 days, right? But that can also be what? 3,000 years. 3,500 years, right? Do you understand? Right. So if that's true too, right? The day ain't over yet. 4,000 years from 6,000 years is what? 10,000 years, right? If 10 days is 10,000 years per day, right? Right. Or the true day is 10,000 years apiece, right? That's still 70,000 years. And the Lord has to replenish the earth after this time, right? If we destroy it again as we did in the past, right? Because they also talk in the Hindu scriptures of us destroying even the cities we built and fighting against each other still. And still tribulating against each other, right? Meaning we can't face the truth of the evil we do to each other is because we look at each other as different as Satan does, right? Not as the same as God does. Even if you look physically different than each other by your skin color, your eye color, it all comes from Adam and Eve. And it all comes from Satan. It all comes from Jesus, right? Because guess who is the firstborn of every creature? Always Jesus, right? Guess who is the secondborn of every creature? Always Satan. And there are other angels mentioned. Raphael. Mm-hmm. Gabriel. Michael. Mm-hmm. Well, these angels can at least become male and female like us, right? Not in the sense that we're male and female, but in the sense that their bodies as gaseous living beings, right, can also become male and female. Though I think a gaseous being would reproduce a little bit different than, say, a human being, right? But God is able to make star-like creatures, right, in the third heaven that we can no longer see, right? Though when we see them, they appear kind of metallic as well. Mm-hmm. We describe them as being bronze or gold or, right, using a metal description, right? I don't know what that means either. We don't know their actual form, right? But one of them always sins, right? You can call him Lucifer, you can call him Halel, you could even call him the alien rebel from the true aliens who are still trying to help us in heaven, right? Anything the fallen angels tell us is a half-truth, right? I know. It's not total lie, right? But it's to confuse you, right? Not help you, right? It's half-truth, half-lie. And what's going to confuse you more, right? A half a truth or the whole truth? Half truth, half truth. That's what a lie is. Rewording something, to where you're saying, only part of what you're supposed to say. It's like sealing the scriptures that Isaiah tells you not to do in Isaiah 29. All right, read the whole chapter with me now. Right. Not just the passage, right? to see what it all says. Right. See, a lot of people will read a passage, but not the whole thing. They'll take a few scriptures and act like, oh, this is the main point of the chapter. Now, there's more to it, right? And then they're sealing other things the passage says, right? Exactly. And that becomes the real problem. Now, woe to Ariel. To Ariel, the city where David dwelt. And ye add ye year to year. Let them kill sacrifices. Yet I will distress Ariel. And there shall be heaviness and sorrow. And it shall be unto me as Ariel. And I will camp against thee round about. And I will lay siege against thee with a mount. And I will raise forts against thee. And thou shalt be brought down, and shalt speak out of the ground. And thy speech shall be low out of the dust. And thy voice shall be as of one that hath a familiar spirit. Out of the ground, and thy speech shall whisper out of the dust. Moreover, the multitude of thy strangers shall be like small dust. And the multitude of the terrible ones shall be as chaff that passeth away. Yea, or yes, it shall be at an instant suddenly. Thou shalt be visited of the Lord of hosts with thunder and with earthquake and great noise, with storm and tempest and the flame of devouring fire. And the multitude of all the nations that fight against Ariel, even all that fight against her and her munitions, and that distress her, shall be as a dream of the night vision. It shall even be as when an hungry man dreameth, and behold, he eateth, but he awaketh, and his soul is empty. Or as when a thirsty man dreameth, and behold, he drinketh, but he awaketh, and behold, he is faint. Another word for faint is you're very thirsty. And his soul hath appetite, so shall the multitude of all the nations be that fight against Mount Zion. Stay yourselves and wonder, cry ye out and cry. They are drunken, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with strong drink. For the Lord hath poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and have closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers, the seers, hath he covered. And the vision of all is become unto you as the words of a book that is sealed, which John brought forward in Revelations, which men deliver to one that is learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed. And the book is delivered to him that is not learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I am not learned, or dumbass. Wherefore the Lord said, Forasmuch as this people draw near me with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their hearts far from me. And their fear towards me is taught by the precepts of men. Therefore, behold, I will proceed to do a marvelous work among this people, even a marvelous work in a wonder. For the wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be not, or hid. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark. And they say, Why? Who seeth us? And who knoweth us? Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, He made me not? Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, He has no understanding? Is it not yet a very little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field shall be esteemed as a forest? And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. See, Jesus tried to open the seals 2,000 years ago. Not now.